Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the NGA podcast, where we talk all things gymnastics. I'm your host, Rebecca Grady, and I'm here with my incredible co-host,
Dr. Ian Crider,
Rob Axelrod.
And today we have a special guest joining us, and that is Eg Hathaway.
All right, so EG is rumored to have been involved in gymnastics for over 45 years, even though he's 36, and has coached for more than 3 decades. He's worked across both men's and women's programs, coached everyone from preschoolers to Olympians, and owns Fortis Gymnastics in Mesa, Arizona, which will celebrate its 10-year anniversary next year. Congratulations, that's fantastic. He was also one of the coaches at NGA Nationals camp this year, and he brought all kinds of experience and energy and leadership to floor all weekend long. It was fantastic, if I do say so.
Yeah, we had fun on floor, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So this episode, we're going to discuss NGA Nationals camp. We're going to recap the 5 amazing days of us coaching, learning, having those long days, late nights, and just all the energy that came from it. So I don't know. I thought it was an amazing week. And I'm not sure what you guys thought, but maybe just going into first impressions and how we thought the overall weekend went. Who wants to start it out?
Yeah, and I've got so many things to say, so I can start. So as always, I always have all the things to say. But, well,
if you ask him.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So I thought there were a couple things that really impressed me over the weekend at camp. One was that the level of gymnastics in NGA is growing exponentially. So we kind of always knew, being on more of the background of NGA, the back end of NGA, is we always knew that we probably weren't going to recruit a bunch of gyms that have 20 level 10s on team and that sort of thing into NGA. But we probably were going to recruit maybe some smaller gyms and help develop them and build them up into big programs. And that's what it seems to be doing, is that, man, we really do have some girls that we keep seeing year after year staying in the sport and getting better and better, and we're really raising the level of gymnastics within the NGA, which is awesome to see. Another thing that I noticed was that the first camp that we did, the select camp, which is for the younger levels, usually that camp is a lot more timid and more reserved and not as willing to try things. And and you always get like the crazy kids, they'll just chuck whatever. But for the most part, that camp is just a little bit lower energy. But man, if anything, that camp was higher energy, I thought, than the premier camp with the upper level girls. Like the upper level girls this year.
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, the upper level girls seemed really more like dialed in and focused, which is awesome. Lots of fun to see that. But the younger ones, or the lower levels at least, man, they were hyped up and ready to go, and they were willing to do whatever and try things and make corrections, and that was really, really fun to see. And then the last thing that I noticed, and Brian Neal noticed it a lot as well, was that the mental struggles that we may have seen 3 or 4 years ago at camp weren't near as prevalent as previous years this year. You know, a lot of times he was on bars, and so I'll quote him, but a lot of times, especially on bars, the girls will hop up on the platform with you and they go, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I can only blank, right? But instead, this year, they were just like, oh yeah, what do you need me to do? All right, cool, let's do it. And we saw the same thing on floor, I thought.
I think we did. I would say there were a couple of moments, but more so with the upper level camp, and more so, well, I don't know if it was all the kids, but yeah, I mean, it was great. Level of, look, I cut my teeth on camps back in the day, right? Woodward's, Lake Owens, all those joints. A lot of great coaches, a lot of great weeks, a lot of people from all over the world. But this last camp was on par with anything I've ever been to. I mean, it was, and the level of coaching in the room, holy moly. Yeah. I was humbled.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with you guys too. You know, the select camp, some of these level 4s and 5s and platinums, like just the skill level that the coaches have been asking them to do besides what's required of them at their levels was awesome. I think that we are building up the coaches to be able to raise the level of gymnastics ability and skill level in their clubs. I think this is our 5th camp or 4th camp. 4th camp?
I've
think
been
4?
to,
It's our 4th camp.
I think
Yeah.
I've been to 4 now. So
Yeah.
it's at least 4.
It's at least 4. So, NGA, we're celebrating our 5th year, but excuse me. I think that some of the mental stuff that we're seeing is that maybe some of these kids are just finally getting back into the norm of what children were growing up and how they were growing up before COVID too. So I think that's taken a big turn for us. Some of these kids, they were too young to really experience COVID in a way that affected them. So maybe we're like on the upward trend of some of our mental abilities getting better in their gymnastics world. On bars, I was on bars as well. I mean, I kind of floated around a little bit. I would say the bulk of my time was on bars, and I felt the same way. Used to be like there would be a line on the pit bar, and it'd be like, "Hey, I heard you can spot my giant." I'm like, "Okay, great. Have you ever done one before?" Nope. But my coach said you can do it for me. I'm like, "Okay, here we go." Like, I'm not real sure about that, but this time it was
Right.
more like, yeah, I got my giant, I'm having some trouble with my flyaway, but I want to do giant flyaway instead of, okay, well, you have giant, or you have baby giant or cast handstand, baby giant, and then, okay, flyaway. Oh, no, I don't fly away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
only fly away on, Tuesdays and, half moon Thursdays or something, so it's
Right.
like,
Right.
okay, all right, whatever you say. I jump up and down, pat my head, rub my belly, and then, will you go? Okay. So I agree there too. I think that some of the kids were just willingness to go and want to do more. I thought that was great. And I would also do agree with the select camp. The energy was just different.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the best way to explain it was just the way you did, Ian, one was more like they were outgoing in the select and like willing to do more than necessary. The upper levels in the premier camp were just hyper focused, want to do this, I want to get this, and we're going to do that. Like there was kids in there doing release moves, had some ankle injuries, so they did like double bars and like, one kid did like 30 release moves and caught 0 and just smiling the whole way through until she was trying to catch one. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's real quick for the audience that may not know what the camp was all about. Rob, will you go over like who can qualify for that camp and how they qualified and all that?
Sure. So, like at our NGA Nationals, the top 10 from each level are automatically qualified, and then when they can or cannot go from their respective levels, we open it up. And I think we opened up this year from 21 to 30, all the way down to 30th place. We have a lot of kids. There's like 2,000, 2,200 kids, 2,300 kids that were at Nationals. So those are the kids that get to qualify to go. The select camp comes on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They finish on Saturday at 12, and then the new group of premier kids that are coming in, athletes, they start at 3:00 on Saturday, then they train Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's kind of like the same exact style camp time-wise, just on different days for the different levels. And I think it's 6 platinums. Or was there 3s there too? 3, 4, 5, 6. It's open to all.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
come.
I think
Yes.
there was
I
some
think we had
3s there.
3, 4, 5, 6, and platinums in the select camp, and then it was 7, 8, 9, 10 diamonds in the premier camp. It's great.
Yeah, a couple of my 3s were there, and they had a blast, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lily, how many times did she tell you she got a new skill?
A lot.
Yeah. Lily got 62 new skills.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she signed the banner 62 times. Those of you that haven't been there yet, we do a new skill alert. You'll see it probably on some of our videos that we post, and they come up to usually me or Jackie, and then Rebecca was getting in the game too. And we get to announce it all crazy, and the gym gets loud for the new skill, and then they sign their name on a banner. And each year the banner gets hung up in the national office back with Linda and Bob. It's really cool. I think like later on we should pull all those out when those kids get ready to graduate and say, hey, what? I signed this thing 62 times. Yeah, you got 62 new skills.
Right. Right.
Really
Yeah, she thinks she's a 6 now, but whatever.
Yeah. And listen,
You're
I'm not
welcome,
going to take
EG.
anything away from it. You got 1 back hip circle, that was a new skill. Then you got 2 back hip circle. That's a new skill. So we're
That's
another
happy
one.
to celebrate that as much as we are to celebrate some kid that did, triple talk that EG was spotting on floor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I loved most about camp is the thing that I got to do, because I do this at Ian's camps. I get to do mental training with the athletes, but
Yeah.
I actually got to do it at Nationals camp this year as a rotation. And I think it was the most amazing thing, because whenever I do those at camps, I want them to practice those skills in the moment so they can come back the next day and tell me if they were working or not, and we can adjust. And I just think, especially the select, they were so excited about learning this stuff and wanting to apply, and then coming back to me and telling me if they used the mental training I asked them to use, they did their homework. I got videos and pictures of them practicing deep breathing as a group. And so, I don't know, I just thought that
Yeah, like
was
in their cabin, right?
Yeah,
They're like laying on the
laying
floor in
on the
their
floor.
cabin.
It was like fat.
Looked like there was a carbon monoxide leak going on. It was awesome.
I know, passed
Well,
out.
But I think that, we've had Rebecca up to do mental training before. We did it in groups, so to make sure that we got everybody. But this year, what we did is we incorporated it as one of the rotations. And on the first 2 days of camp, they got their instructions. Then they got to apply it on the second day. And then on the third day, we just do vault bars, beam, and floor. And then Miss Rebecca got to come and visit all the different kids on the different events and watch their mental training in action, which was really awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And it was awesome because they were coming up and telling me that they were using it. And the boys, that was the kind of my like wild card for this year. I was like, we're going to
That's
see
what I
how
was gonna
this
bring up.
goes. Yeah. And they actually were coming up to me and saying thank you. And they're like, I did my triple tuck or whatever because I used your mental training and I practiced
And
it.
I think with the boys, the thing that really takes the icing on the cake for them is they only really had one opportunity to have a session, and then they got to apply it the next day, and they were just so excited to tell Miss Rebecca that, that they used it. So that was great.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
talked to Peyton, the triple tuck kid, and I don't think he would have done it if he hadn't have talked to you first. I mean, you pumped him up, right? I mean, he was ready.
Yeah, with the boys, I knew I had to go in and get that buy-in. I do not talk to boys the same way I talk to girls just because they're obviously very different. And so I told them,
You don't say.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
What?
So we went in strong with buy-in, and I got that buy-in with them.
Nice. I think like a big standout moment for me at camp were there were 2 or 3 girls on floor that they did like a timer, like they did a layout timer, right? And it's like over my head. I was like, good grief! All right, so we're doing double backs, right? They're like, what? You think I could do that? I'm like, good. Yeah, if you like just bent your knees a little bit, you do it on accident. There were some really cool moments. It wasn't just the double backs. There were some girls with like this huge front layout. I was like, what are we twisting that? Were you bounding out of that? What are we doing? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I could do that yet. I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and train up just a little bit. And there were multiple times this weekend where I got to, just encourage some gymnasts and really kind of felt like light a little spark in them and go, hey, no, you are fully capable of doing this. And then they did it and they're like, oh, look at that. I am pretty good. And it was a fun moment to see.
I agree. There's a lot of times in there that, I mean, it didn't have to be double backs or triple backs. It was
Yeah.
could have been a full or
Yeah.
Yeah.
the double full. Like you're doing it in the pit and it looks great. Go on the mat. What?
Yep.
You think
Yeah.
I can?
You think I can?
I think you can.
We're going to
Yeah.
add a minute. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in the same token, my 4 athletes that I brought with me, they all have great vaults, and we use an air track and a T trainer. It goes into free foam, and then they put a mat, and then they land on that mat. And then we had just a freestanding vault pit with one table and a free foam, and we switched it over 2 years ago to a resi system. Super expensive, to do that, take out the foam and put in a whole full resi system, and none of them use it. Like nobody wants to flip on it, like the newbies. And for as long as I've been coaching, you use your tools to do your skills and your drills. And then the first time they go over the table, like they kind of don't really need a spot. They've been doing it for so long. And now this year up at camp, the girls had 5 or 6 different vaults to go into. And by the end, all 4 of the one has a Yurchenko and has competed Yurchenko, but 3 out of the 4 that did not compete Yurchenko or a Zouk or flip or whatever off of a real table, not only flipped off a real table, went onto a mat in the pit. So it was like really great for them to see. We came home and 3 out of the 4, only 1 wouldn't flip. So that was pretty cool.
Hey,
Back on the resi.
nice.
So it was like,
Yeah.
really, it's big. That's what camp's all about. Like sometimes these kids go to these other camps and they have lots of restrictions. They're not allowed to land on mats, and we're not allowed to get spotted. And we all understand as gymnastic coaches, without getting into a whole tangent about why they do those at those other camps. But this camp's a little bit different. We hand spot, we progressively spot, we take away mats, we add mats, and it goes really well. I think that on the whole, we do a really nice job at the Flip Fest during our national team camp. And I think each year it just gets better and better. I mean, next year I think we might have to have 8 rotations. It's kind of, instead of 7 groups, maybe 8 groups.
I
But
have a request.
it's really awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
I think we should do a tramp rotation for sure.
Well, so we talked about that before, and it's a definite, but it comes down to time. Like 7 rotate fits really well, because we get 45-minute rotations on Saturday, and if we went and added an extra rotation, we'd be down to 30-minute rotations, and that's like always the biggest complaint is the coaches don't have enough time to explain what they want to do, show what they want to do, and then let the kids get to work on it. So one of the things like on bars, we used to. Uh, Coaches that were running bars and on bars would come up and they go, okay, today we're going to talk about pirouettes. And then, take 10 to 15 minutes to talk about the pirouettes, explain all the stations, and then they have 30 minutes to work out. If you had a 30-minute rotation and took 10 minutes or 15 minutes to explain all your stations, you're going to get 10 to 15 minutes of time. And I think what we have never done that I'm going to do next year in our schedule, God willing that I'm here and alive, we're going to do 5-minute passing time. Because we have the kids going down to the dance room or going down to mental training we did by the lake, weather permitting. It was really cool to be outside. So that was really awesome. But I think if we add in that 5 minutes of passing time, it will really help out too, because that was another complaint. The kids, we only got 40 minutes on our rotation. You said we got 45 minutes. Like, whoa, so sorry. You missed out on your 5 minutes. So and that's great. The kids really want to spend more time on their events and all events, nobody.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
events. Usually there's that one event where they're like, and it's usually bars. It's like, oh, I just see one more turn. But man, they were doing it on floor. They were doing it on vault. It's like, all right, girls, we gotta rotate. Let's move it on.
The dance rotation was like spectacular. The kids were like excited to go to dance, and like nobody complained. Sometimes they would complain they were going to strength. And like so that's another rotation that we have. And it's like, wow, they all go to strength, and like they were outside and they were on the basketball court and they were doing some sprint work, and it was really good stuff. It was a really, really great camp.
So, we had been talking about how we thought the gymnasts were more engaging this time at camp. And I've only done 2 of them, but I still saw that. And I think a lot of that goes to how everybody is coaching. I think that it's just, you're more approachable. I just feel like there's just this, I don't even really know how to describe it, like this environment that it just makes them feel like they can come up and ask you guys questions for help and to try those harder skills that they might have been scared of doing. I don't know what you guys think about it, but when I was walking around, and that's why I love the 3rd days, because I can go help them with mental training, but I also can watch you guys coach, because that's a huge part of what I do individually is I need to learn all the ways how to coach different skills. And I love hearing everyone do it because everyone does it different. But just listening to you guys and how you would approach their fear and their anxiety when it came to skills, I thought was a big part of why they were willing to try those things.
I think, we've had some consistency with our coaching staff over the few years of national team camp. And so I think that's helped a lot. I think the kids actually look forward and remember us to coming.
Yeah.
One girl was there last year. She was an older girl, like 16, 17 maybe. I think she may have been a senior in high school, and she was, did her first giant forever with me last year, and then this year did her first giant double tuck with me, and it was like, wow, you went from never doing a giant in a year to doing giant double, and she remembered it, and it was awesome. I think
awesome.
we did a little something different this year. We put a senior staff coach on each event, and the senior staff coach not only got to help kick off the event, get it rolling, and throw their 2 cents in, which was awesome, but they were actually available to help a coach with a specific kid who might have a fear or need a drill. And I don't know about you guys, but on bars, I mean, I was getting pulled, every time over, hey, can you help me with this kid? And what would you do with this kid? To have the opportunity and have the time to do that really made it seem that all the coaches are more approachable that way, where they're not, because they don't, like when a kid will come up to me and say, hey, can you spot a giant? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on, let's go. And I'm like, and then a kid will go, they'll do one. It's kind of nerve wracking for all of us, but you girls trust us. And the one thing that it's good that when someone will come up and say, hey, can you spot? Will you spot? Do you spot? And then I would explain to them that, hey, we don't put anybody on bars for spotting or anywhere that we don't feel comfortable in that can spot any kid that comes to us. But that being said, we don't know what the kid is capable of. We don't know if they have any fears or any kind of little quirks that maybe they tend to balk or any of those things. So we as coaches and spotters, we have to be like super open to make them feel comfortable to go with us. And the kids, we didn't have anybody that was like, well, that guy spotted me yesterday. I'm only going to do my, shoot overs with him. And like I
Right,
had kids
right.
going, well, yesterday, this guy, I don't think it was you. It was another bald headed guy. I'm like, okay, no problem.
There's a few of us in the room.
He
Yeah.
spotted my bail. Can you spot bails? I'm like, yeah, sure. Come on up. And the kid just went. And like, it was fantastic. So the kids were really, I think, comfortable with us. I think, again, because of the consistency of the coaching staff that's been there, but we also added some new staff in. And that was really great too. Our new staff did a great job. It was really fun to watch the dynamic between the coaches and the athletes. All of the coaches and the athletes was a lot of fun.
And we also start the
More fun than-
weekend off with rules of coaching, right?
Right.
Like,
So I was going to bring that up
Ryan's
too.
big
Yeah.
thing is you can give two types of corrections. You can give a technical correction or a positive feedback, right? Those
Yeah.
are the only two things that are allowed. We're not doing negative corrections. We're not putting people down. And it's zero tolerance on those things.
Yeah, we're
So
not
we
trying to
start-
scare them into a skill,
Yeah.
and I'm all about progressions and wanting my athletes, and Miss Rebecca and I were just talking off camera beforehand about that, and, my progressions are my progressions, and I've been doing it for quite some time. I guess I'm in my 40th year of coaching also. I hate to say that because then everybody figures out how old you are, but
Right.
I'm 48, 48,
36.
and it's
Too bad Mike's not here. I wouldn't be the oldest guy in the room, but
right, exactly. And so, that being said, we here at Ariel's specifically, if a kid doesn't want to do a skill, I'm like, okay, you don't have to. That's totally up to you. But let me remind you that when requirements come around for what level you want to be, you may not be the level that you want to be. And so none of those things are like negative. None of those things are a punishment. Our kids here at Ariel's know that if they don't do their series on high beam today, they're going to get 20 rope climbs. I mean, it's ridiculous that stuff even exists out there still in some gyms, and it does, but not here. And I'd
it
like
needs to be self-driven. It needs to be
Yes.
self-driven, right?
I'd like to say 90% of the coaches that were at that camp and that were on staff and not on staff kind of similarly coach the same way. And I think that's what makes it so approachable.
I heard you say that, Rob, that, you don't have to do this, but here's the consequences, right?
Sure.
And I actually used that yesterday with one of my about to be level 9s on bars, because you know what an amazing bar coach I am not. And thank you for
Absolutely.
those toe-on drills, by the way.
Yeah.
Magic.
Now that EG's here, we have to just stop and sorry to interrupt you, but it's like so important. Like we did this podcast all about toe shoots, and EG's sending me like at midnight these like toe shoot drills and all the whole setup. And he's like, thanks for the awesome setup. The next thing you know, he's got toe shoots. I'm like, yes.
That's right.
Yeah, we had 2 new ones yesterday.
There you go.
One girl did 2 in a row. Like,
Podcast is working, and I'm glad somebody else could use a drill that I probably stole from somebody else.
That's
right? No, but I mean, we're on bars and they're new level 9s, and you know how level 9 can be, especially bars, right? So they're terrified. And I said, you don't have to. That will affect your level, but you don't have to. And she did. Like, that was her choice, though. It wasn't force. I didn't push. She chose. And I think that's a big deal. And I think they need to understand that there are natural consequences, but they don't have to be punishments from us, right?
So here at Ariel's, we have the 12 teaching principles, and number 5 is discipline with natural consequences. There's discipline for everything that we do. I mean, it's funny, the kids will come in. I know we're getting a little off topic, but the kids will come in and they'll tell me that they had to do the mile today. And, if they stop, running, they're not running during the mile, they're not trying, that the phys ed teachers go up and yell at them in their faces, and then they get a bad grade. And I'm like, but you put up with that? We don't do that here. Like, I actually go up on a high beam, and, I'm like, okay, everybody, here's beam complex, and then here's your assignment for beam. It's 3-5-7. Another time I can explain that all to you. But so it's 3-5-7. It's Mondays, and then they just all leave and they go to the floor, and I'm standing at beam. Hey, where'd everybody go? We must be on beam because they're on floor warming up, for 20 minutes. But there's no screaming or yelling like, "What are you doing? Get on a high beam!" I mean, I just don't do it anymore. And I'm not saying that I didn't do it in the past, and like, kids wouldn't finish their assignment. I wouldn't let them rotate. What we learn as we go, like, what does that get you? So you leave a kid stranded on beam for 20 more extra minutes, and they just still didn't do the skill. So we may as well just rotate, come back and try again tomorrow. Like, don't worry, honey, it's okay. We'll just try again tomorrow. And I'm not sure that the gentle coaching path works the best either, but at least I don't have someone who we forced which I will not do, but who we forced to do a skill that they didn't want to do or they were terrified of, come back when they're 25 years old and be like, you ruined me. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I would still love the sport. I hated the sport. You put a bad taste in my mouth, or whatever the things that they have to say about it. So having those technical corrections and positive reinforcements, it works, somewhere down the line. So maybe the kid doesn't get a double tuck by the time they're 12 and they get it by the time they're 15. Okay.
That would be fun.
Well,
It
I'm glad you brought this up
It
because
depends where you're going, though, and what's your goal in life for your club? What's the goal in life for the kid? Like, if I want the kid to be a level 10 at 12 years old or 13 years old, but maybe the kid doesn't really care about being a level 10, then okay, so then who wants the level 10 more, the coach or the kid? So that's an important thing too, and I think natural progressions, like if you keep doing these skills, you're going to get one and you're going to get it at some point in time. And so, you keep working at it, it's going to get there. And that's the coolest thing, for the kid. It may take longer than you wanted, but in the end, your success of the child is more important than the success of the skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100%.
What were you going to say, EG?
No, I was going to say I'm glad he brought it up, like the general coaching thing. I don't think that's the way either. I think there's a good middle, and that's a great segue actually to Rebecca. I think how we connected is you were saying you like to go out and watch the coaches. I don't even think I was on staff at the time. I think I was just helping on vault because poor vault, right?
Don't you mention my vault. I love vault. Favorite event.
I love vault. Most coaches don't though, right? But I saw a kid and a coach working together, and I could see it just wasn't happening for her, and the corrections. I mean, it wasn't going to work, right? And I just stepped in and said something really simple. I don't even remember what it was, and you were standing right there, and you were like, "Oh, I like that. Can I steal that?" I'm like, "Yeah, steal it. Go ahead, take it." And so that kind of kicked off the whole mental training thing for me to go down that road. And to be honest with you, I give very few technical corrections anymore. I would say 80% of my time in the gym is spent on what are you thinking or how are you thinking, right?
Right. Especially at a certain level, right? They get to the point where they already know the correction. They know what you're going to say. They've seen someone else do it. They know how it's done, but their thinking is off, and they start, going, well, what if, like we talked about with Rebecca on one of our podcasts, right? Is they play the what if game, or they catastrophize, or they do all these things that only make their gymnastics worse. They're only thinking about the negative outcomes that could possibly happen. I just had this conversation with one of my gymnasts, and she's like, we were about to do Yurchenko over the table for the first time. And she's like, well, anything could happen. I was like, exactly. She's like, what? I was like, yeah. If anything could happen, this could be the best Yurchenko I've ever seen in my entire life too, right? She's like, it took a little convincing, and then she kind of came around to it. But I'm like, yeah, if anything can happen, well, then anything good can happen as well. So let's
I've
change
heard it
the way you think.
called like the what if monkey.
Yeah.
What if this? What if that? And I just tease them at that point. Yeah, what if 20 ninjas walk in the room and slash you up to like, come on, is that going to really happen? Like,
right.
I know. I call it fortune telling. Like they have that ball, like they're trying to like predict their future kind of thing.
Yeah,
Right.
Mr. Rob, what if I do this? And I go,
Yeah, you're like the genie in the bottle.
can't get a clear signal. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or they do the what if game, and I go, and like, well, what if I step off the curb and I get hit by a bus? And they're like, Mr. Rob, and I'm like, well, anything could happen.
Right.
That's not a good anything can happen, but yes.
I mean,
We're still there.
speaking truth here. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Well, does anybody want to say, well, what if they, they miss the table and they land on their neck and break their neck, right? Like
don't do that.
We don't want to talk about those type of things, but like those are some of the things that are in these kids' head. I'm going to land on my head and I'm going to break my neck. Well, okay, well, that's where all the whole progression thing came in from. And you have to reassure them. I don't get those too much anymore. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really get the kids telling me I'm going to land on my head, or, they're just, when they're little, their fear seems to be a little bit less. And then they start figuring out, well, I'm flying from bar to bar. And like, if I miss it,
But gymnastics is kind of dangerous.
Get hurt,
Yeah. So I'm glad that you guys brought up the coaching spectrum, because a lot of times when we think of mental training, a lot of us can jump to it's just gentle coaching. And there's an in between. There's doesn't have to be black and white with everything, and that's kind of we get to those extremes all the time. And somewhere in the middle is what we're going to be going towards. Coaching positively doesn't mean that we don't have those natural consequences, that we don't set boundaries and rules and have structure within our gym. We can have all of those things, but we can still be good coaches, changing our tone of voice, how we interact with our athletes. So I think that's one of the biggest parts. So we're going to start this mental mastery series, and EG is going to be a part of it. And the reason why I thought EG would be great is because I have watched him coach a ton, and he is very invested in mental training. And we have talked so much on a lot of this stuff, and I love how he does a lot of things. And that's one of the things I love about gymnastics is that we can learn from each other. There's no one person who's the best at it. We get ideas, and we constantly grow as people, as coaches, as athletes. So we're going to do a rapid fire Q&A with EG. Because we have to induct him some way. Like, we have to get him a part of this.
Let's
Need
go.
like an opener for like, rapid fire Q&A.
I know. Like, can you do
something.
that? Or Rob? Rob, do your, like, new skill voice for
Rapid fire?
Q&A.
We could use some of my Instagram.
All right, and here we go. Now we've got to go on to our rapid fire with Eg Hathaway. Let's go, Miss Rebecca.
Yes. Yes.
That's right.
Okay, that's exactly what we need.
Why is this
Okay,
not what you do for a living? You want, I mean,
I know,
voiceover.
right?
Yeah.
That's why Rob is our
I'm
person
actually
at
trying to
camp
find
when
that
we
whole
do
new
the
thing. I
interviews.
stop coaching. Who's going to pay me to do what? So I may just walk around and be a motivator speaker,
There you go.
a motivating announcer. There you go.
There you go.
I like
Nice.
it.
Sunday,
All right.
Sunday, or whatever, right? Yeah.
All right, so to give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming up in our mental mastery series, we're gonna give EG some questions, and he has to answer them rapid fire. Okay, question number 1. What's one mental tool that's been most helpful for you as a coach?
For me as a coach,
Yeah.
actually, the whole mental series for the children, teaching them how to think correctly, has been helpful for me because I'm less frustrated. I'm forcing less. I'm pushing less. They're pushing themselves. They're understanding that I don't need to be staying there every 10 seconds to give them a correction on every single turn either. So they're thinking better, and they're getting better results, and they're happier and more productive. And how is that not good for me as a coach, right?
Yeah. Working
Mhm.
smarter, not harder.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, question number 2. What's one topic you're most excited to talk about for this mental mastery series that we're going to start?
Wow, that's a good question. There are so many. Like, I was working on the slideshow because I want it to be fancy for you guys, right?
Woo.
Love the commitment.
Right?
I'll do it now.
And just
I
I
know.
was getting jazzed about so many of the slides, but I think the biggest thing is just teaching them how to think the right things, because they think plenty of things, but
Yes.
they're very rarely
Plenty.
thinking the right things, right? And seeing how that has translated. One of my just graduated seniors is in college now, and she called me and she said, if you hadn't taught me what you taught me, I wouldn't be handling college as well as I'm handling it, right? So just teach them how to think better. They're not all going to be gymnasts. I mean, 96% of them are done after high school,
Mm-hmm.
but they need to endure the world, and they need to be successful thinkers, solution-based thinkers, if they're going to be successful anyway. So that's the biggest thing, probably solution-based thinking.
I like that one. All right, number 3. So what's one reason you think more coaches should buy into mental training or being a part of this mental mastery series that we're going to be doing and focusing in on it for them, not just their athletes?
Well, I think that's triple fold. So it's not one reason, but it all comes down to making your life easier as a coach. The kids become more productive, like I said, and it just takes so much of the pressure off of you. I'm much less frustrated every day. I'm so much happier when I come home. I have good stories, not, oh my gosh, this kid wouldn't do this stories, right? So yeah, make your life easier. Teach them how to think better, right?
Yeah, definitely lower the stress, and maybe we can prevent some burnout when it's coming to coaches, because I know when season's starting, that is a big problem, that they're just so overly stressed and burnt out that it makes it really difficult to go into season.
I get into panic mode around September and October. I'm not going to lie,
Yeah.
right? I know they're not ready. I know they're not
The
supposed to be
filming of
ready.
this video,
Mhm.
Right?
G's blood pressure's 210 over
Oof.
70.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. I mean, I think around this time, October, November, we're coming up with our meet that we host in December. And so it's like, that's a lot of work on us. It's a lot of stress on me. But then it's like, well, are my athletes going to be ready? And it's like, who's competing? Is it me? Am I showing off my athletes? And you have to, for me anyway, just not to interrupt your whole segment there, but just take yourself out of it. It's not about you anymore. It's about your athletes. Let your athletes be more comfortable, and you'll be less stressed. They'll feel the less stress of you. They'll do better. You'll feel happier. You'll be more proud of your athletes. Nothing more proud as a coach to just see your kid go from nothing to something in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm not getting less with this approach. I'm not getting less performance. I'm
Right.
actually getting more, the same or more. And the relationship between them and myself is drastically better.
Right.
Yes. And I love that. All right. So I think that's a wrap. So, EG, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
And we're so excited to have you on in the future. And for everyone that came to Nationals Camp, we loved having you. We cannot wait to see everyone next year. If you were at camp, if you're a coach or an athlete, and you have some favorite moments that you'd like to share, please send us a message on any of our social media platforms. What stood out to you? And if you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who could benefit from the conversation. So thank you for joining us here at the NGA Podcast. And until next time, stay happy, healthy, and high performing.